Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Olu. I'm a Nigerian living in Moncton, New Brunswick, Canada. And on this channel, I talk about what it means to be an immigrant living in Moncton. If today is your first time on this channel, thank you so much for joining. Please don't forget to subscribe right now and join the family. And if you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back. Thank you for being part of the family. In today's video, we will be talking about how to rent an apartment in Moncton, New Brunswick. What is the process? What are the documents that you need? What do you need to look out for in renting an apartment in New Brunswick? First thing we'll be talking about today is the different types of apartment in Moncton or in Canada generally. So the first one we will talk about is the condominiums or condo, or we call it apartment. Condominiums are large apartment building with different units. That means it's a big building but it has different units. Sometimes it might be 1-bedroom apartment, 2-bedroom apartment, or 3-bedroom apartment. The second type of apartment I would like to talk about is the townhouses, or simply put, houses. And these are single family residence, sometimes multi-level, so you can have duplex or triplex. Sometimes they are detached, that means it stands alone, or sometimes they are semi-detached. That means you have like 2 or 3 together, but each house is a single family unit. Typically it is a little bit expensive than the condominium, and sometimes you may have to pay for additional services like snow removal or lawn mowing, or sometimes it may be factored into your rent. The third type of apartment I would like to talk about is the basement. So the basement is like the lower level of a main building, which is typically on the surface level. So sometimes you might have basement that have a walkout basement. That means it has a different entrance from the main level. And sometimes you share the same entrance with the main level in the building. For basements are a little bit cheaper than the condos or the townhouses, because you may be sharing utilities with the main building. Then another thing with basement is some people say that basement is cold, and sometimes it is fair to assume that basements are cold because they are below the ground level. Apart from the types of apartments in Moncton, another thing I would like to talk about is the lease agreement. So lease agreement is a legally binding contract between the landlord and the tenant, and it gives the tenant the right to live in the property for a fixed period of time. Sometimes the lease agreement can be month to month, or 6 months, or 1 year. That means you are signing an agreement with the landlord to live in that house for maybe 6 months or 1 year, or sometimes it is month to month. Part of the lease agreement have some conditions, some things that you being the tenant you have to do, and it has some things that the landlord too needs to do. So it is a legally binding document. When you are signing your lease, a security deposit is collected. Security deposit is sometimes the same as your rent, and when this amount is collected, it is given to the office of the renters man, which is regulated by the government of New Brunswick. The office of the renters man holds this security deposit for the amount of your lease period, and once you move out of the apartment, the landlord will evaluate the apartment for maybe either damages or unpaid rent or anything like that. And if there are damages or unpaid rent, the landlord will submit a claim to the renters man, and the renters man will give the landlord that amount. But if there is nothing, maybe you did your cleaning, there was no damages, there is no unpaid rent, that money is refunded back to you at the end of your lease when you move out of the apartment. So the major appliances that come with an apartment are the stove, the fridge, the heating system, which can be baseboard heating or heat pump, or sometimes they call heat pump air conditioner. Then you have mirrors in the bathroom. Sometimes you have dishwasher in the house, and depending on the house that you rent, you may have in unit laundry. That means you have your washer and your dryer. Sometimes you have microwave in the apartment. So those are the things that majorly comes with apartments here in Canada. Now let's talk about how to search for apartment, or where do you need to look out for when you are looking for details about apartment available for rent. The major place that people look for apartments available for rent is Google. So in Google you can just type apartments for rent in Moncton. Some website will pop up. One of the major website here is Kijiji. So if you go on kijiji.com.ca, I'll put a link below. You will see, once you go on kijiji.ca, let's assume it's CA, you put the you just type apartments to rent in Moncton, and it gives you a list of apartments available. Then sometimes you may want to check on Facebook Marketplace. So there's a function on Facebook Marketplace where you can actually type in apartment to rent in Moncton, and it's going to, or apartment to rent near me. If you are already in Moncton, it will bring out all the apartments that is being listed in Facebook Marketplace. Another place that you can find information about apartments available for rent is property management website. So some big apartments, especially condos, are managed by property management companies. So if you go on their website, they update their website regularly of any available units for rent. I'll put some links of some common property management companies in Moncton. I'll put their links down below where you can check for any information that you want. And sometimes just word of mouth, you telling people you need apartment, or maybe speak. If you go to a church, you can tell your church members. If you go to a mosque, you can tell your mosque members. You can tell your friends. And sometimes apartments, you might just see the posting right in front of the apartment. Am I right? Apartment to rent, please call. So typically it is easy to get information about where to find apartments that are available for rent. When an apartment is listed online for rent, some of the information that will be included are the pictures of the apartment, how many number of rooms, what are the utilities covered in the rent, what are the appliances in the building or in the unit, is there parking available for the apartment, what are the additional fees that you will need to pay, the available date when the apartment will be available for you to move in. I'm trying to think what else. The floor size or the plan, then the lease agreement type. Is it month to month or is it 1 year lease agreement? So all this information are stated when an apartment is listed. So you may want to check all those information just to be sure that they fit into what you are looking for. That being said, let's take a look into what documents you need to provide when you are renting an apartment. We already talked about the first month's rent and your security deposit. Those are, you can't change that. That is really important. Another thing you need to get is references. So references could be letters from your previous landlord if you are already residing in Canada, or if you are new to Canada, they might want references, which can be maybe your employment letter, guarantors, or co-signers. So somebody that can sign with you. Sometimes they do credit check just to see if you have good credit. Proof of income is required as well. Then account details. If you want the landlord to be taking money out of your account every month, you either provide your account details or you write checks post-dated check. So if your lease is for 6 months, you will write 6 months post-dated check for the landlord. And rental insurance is really important here. Some apartments request that you get your rental insurance even before you sign your lease. Let us take a look into the process of renting an apartment. The first thing that you need to do is list out what is important for you in an apartment, or what are you looking for in an apartment. Typical example can be proximity to schools, to malls, closeness to bus stop. Then if you are in a career where you can work from home, especially now during COVID, people are generally working from home. You want to be sure that the apartment is quiet enough for when you work from home. Another thing that you may want to consider is, do you want to live on the ground floor if you are renting a condominium? When we moved to Canada, that was really important to us because we had 2 young active kids, and it was really important we lived on the ground floor because we don't want to, when the kids are making noise or running around, that it will be disturbing the neighbors downstairs. So we listed out all those things that we are looking for in an apartment. The next thing that you need to do is go online, search for apartment. Once you find the apartment that looks like what you want, read all those things that are available in the apartment that we mentioned earlier. Once that is done, I'll say read reviews about the apartment. If you are fortunate enough to find reviews about the apartment online, or it can even be read reviews about the neighborhood, or even the property management company. That way you have an idea of who you are dealing with. The next thing you want to do is call the landlord or the property management company and schedule a time for viewing. It is important you see the apartment you like before you sign the contract or the lease agreement. This video is made during COVID, so you may want to look out for COVID restrictions of apartment viewing. You may be fortunate enough to schedule like virtual viewing of the apartment as well during this period. But it is really important that you view the apartment, and not only are you viewing the apartment, you should be viewing the neighborhood as well. So when you are done looking into the apartment, you may want to look around the neighborhood and have a feel of the neighborhood. Another thing you want to do when you go for viewing is have a set of questions that you want to ask. Questions can range from, is the apartment child friendly or pet friendly if you have a pet? Is the apartment non-smoking, or is are you allowed to smoke in the apartment? Can the apartment be shared? So if you are like single or student, you may want to ask, can I share this apartment with another occupant? Then you may want to ask, how is the facility managed? Who is in charge of damages? What are the call protocol for damages in the apartment? Another thing that you may want to ask is, who is my neighbor? Who are the people that I'm going to be living with if it is a condo? I remember when we lived in one apartment, we were living with a senior, right? Our next door neighbor was a senior. So I was typically conscious about the kids, jumping around, making noise. So you may want to ask, who is going to be my potential neighbor, or who is already living in the apartment beside me? There are so many questions that you can ask depending on what you want in an apartment. So after viewing, if you like the apartment, or even if you don't like the apartment, call the landlord or the property manager to know the decision that you've made. If you want to go with the apartment, or you are moving on to another apartment, make sure that you give them a call and let them know the decision that you've made. If you are going with the apartment, they will provide you some forms that you need to fill and do all the documentation processes. Then another important thing that you need to do is read carefully the lease agreement. Ensure that you understand everything that is written in the agreement. If there's any uncertainty or unclear statement or ambiguous statement, make sure you call the landlord or the property manager to explain those terms to you. it is important that you understand everything in the lease agreement before you sign it, because it's a legal document, so you are legally bound by the document. I hope you find all this information valuable. I will list out some websites in the description box, where you can do some further research on how to rent an apartment. I'm hoping that maybe in the next 2-3 videos we will do an apartment tour. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, comment down below. Let's get the interaction going on. And until we see next time, thank you. Bye. Stay safe.